Hi everyone, and welcome to this week 4 recap. So we've been over this exercise in week 4, but I'm going to just take a bit of a deeper dive into how the random functions are actually affecting the size and the amount of ellipses being shown in each iteration. So I will start by quickly running the exercise so you can see what it looks like as this final product. Then what we can do is take a look at the code a little bit closer. Alright, so what have we got here? We can see that there's a function called target. Now if we look below, we can see that yes, target is being created, so we can use target as many times as we want in the draw function. Now if we take a closer look at target, what we can see is two random functions being called in the last two properties. But how exactly does that feed into the function? Well, we can take a closer look. Okay, so the last two properties of the target function that we've created are size and circle num. So we are pretty confident that size is any number between 0 to 500 at random, and circle num is any number from 0 to 6 at random. But how does that feed into the code? Well, okay, let's start with circle num. Alright, so if we look at our for loop here, we can see that circle num is being called in the property that tells the for loop how many times you want it to iterate through. So basically what you're saying here is each time the for loop runs, I want a different number, maximum number from 0 to 6. So one time it might say, okay, we're going to draw 3 circles, we're going to draw 5 circles, we're going to draw 6 circles, and so on. Okay, so that pretty much makes sense. Let's give it a shot. If we do a bigger number like 20, we can see that the variety of the circles within the for loop changes quite dramatically. Okay, so what about size? Well, if we see how the size is being implemented, it's being implemented in the third property of the ellipse. But if you're like me and sometimes you forget what the properties are and how they affect the ellipse or whatever shape you're using, you can just jump into the P5JS reference, because this sometimes looks a little bit arbitrary if you can't remember the syntax. So what we can do is take a look here. Okay, so X and Y positions are the first two, and then W is the width, and height is optional because it's in brackets and we're not using that in our code, so we can forget about that. Alright, so size is very fittingly affecting the width of the ellipse. But what's all this complicated maths and how does that really affect the size? Well, first we're multiplying the I, so the order of the for loop. So it starts from 0 up to 6, or the maximum random number, which is defined here. And then it's multiplied by the size that's being called here. So basically what you're saying is start from the smallest size, because it starts from 0, and with each iteration we're multiplying that by the size so that it can grow bigger. And then we're doing the maths here to minus size from that, so the progression gets bigger over time. And then also dividing that by circle num. So what that does is, because this is always a random variable, we're saying divide it by the amount of ellipses that are running each time. Okay, so what if we want to do a couple more things up here? Let's start with number 2. We'll mix it up a bit. Alright, so we want to make the ellipses appear at different locations on the screen, because right now it's being positioned exactly right smack bang in the center. What if we do something like this? we'll use random again, and what we'll say is, okay, we want it to start randomly from the left side of the canvas all the way up to the end of the canvas. And you can definitely do some magic to add some padding and things like that, but for now I will just not put any padding and just put 0 height and 0 width. Let's give that a shot. Awesome, that worked. Alright, so what about the first one now? Let's make the targets a different color. So we can see here that we're using the modulus operator in an if statement, and that basically tells the function to either fill each circle with a white color or a black color, depending on whether it's an odd or an even value. Okay, so let's make this a little bit more random. And again, you can customize this to give it a range so that the colors are more consistent. But for now, I will freestyle it and just do any color from 0 to 255 for RGB. All right, cool. So hopefully that gives a more in-depth explanation of how random is being used. I will link the working examples with some more comments in the video below. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out on the Coding Help channel. All right, see you next time.